One more minute here as we still have attendees joining us today. All right, I think we'll go ahead and get started here. Thank you everyone for joining us. Welcome to our webinar this month, bringing two worlds together, Acumatica and Excel with Velixo. I'm John Rosine, the Business Applications Practice Manager at SVA Consulting, and I'm joined by Duffy Cohen and Taliba Gordon of Velixo. They will be leading us through our demonstration today, and we have an exciting one planned. But before we jump in, just a couple of notes as we get started. We are recording today's session, and it will be posted to our Acumatica webinar series channel on YouTube. If you have any questions, for those of you that are new to our webinar, and for those of you that have already attended in the past, you know the process here. But for those that are new, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. Taliba here from Velixo will be helping moderate those questions. We'll present those throughout the conversation today. And as we wrap up, I'll have some additional contact information if you're interested in what you see through the Velixo demonstration today. I believe with that, I can turn it over to Duffy to lead us through our demonstration.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Ron and John, excuse me. And nice to meet everyone today. Very much looking forward to highlight and showcase Velixo. And we're going to get started by number one, thanking the entire SVA team for setting this event up today. We know, with Memorial Day and everyone else just coming back, it's a little bit difficult getting everyone organized today, but happy to see, the attendance rate today. But to get started, I do want to introduce Velixo. What we're going to do today is spend the first couple of minutes walking through the history of Velixo. Following that, we will touch on the core functionalities that you all will have access to. But for the major chunk of the conversation today, I will walk you through the solution itself. But to get started, really what Velixo is at the core is we're an Excel-based reporting solution. And what we do is bring all the data that you would have in Acumatica and bring it to life within Excel. And in the same vein, you'll have that ability to push your data from Excel directly into Acumatica. So it's going to be that pushing and pulling type of environment. John already mentioned and introduced us. My name is Duffy Cohen. I'm the VP Channel Sales and Customer Success. On the call as well, we have Taliba Gordon, who's our team lead of customer success. And she'll help manage, the day-to-day operations with our existing customers. So if anyone here does like Velixo and want to get started, Taliba will be there to make sure that you have all the information you need and you are, having the most success possible. So to get started, I do like to always highlight our founder, Gabriel Michaud. He's an Excel guru, he's a software engineer, and he built this product uniquely for the Acumatica ecosystem. He previously to starting this business, he worked for Acumatica on the product development side, and with the previous CEO, John Roskell, they would go hand in hand to visit customers and showcase Acumatica as a whole. Throughout that time, he realized that there was a need within the marketplace for a more robust reporting, being able to manipulate the reports the way you see fit and not constantly having to export your data anymore. So he went off on his own and created Velixo as we see today. We're just over 5.5 years old, and in a very short period of time, we've grown to over 1,400 Acumatica customers in 22 plus countries. So our organization's growing. A lot of customers are seeing the value in our solution for their needs. We won't go too deep into the history of Velixo, but really, like I already mentioned, it came from Gabriel's experience with his previous customers who mentioned, their inability to use the reports the way they wanted to use them. At the end of the day, every single customer or majority of the individuals that we work with, controllers, accountants, IT managers, you have that experience already with Excel. You've learned it in school, you've used it at your work. And when you're starting with ERPs, we find typically customers go back to Excel. And it's just the name of the game. Having over 1 billion users, the most popular add-on in the world, it just seemed like the right fit to create an add-on within that ecosystem as opposed to creating a brand new software and having to learn something completely new. With Velixo, we've just created functions within this ecosystem and you can connect seamlessly. I always like to share this slide because in my mind, everything really does happen in spreadsheets. And in the ERP world, we don't like to say this, but this is really the case. Now, the first thing you all will see in just a matter of 2 or 3 minutes is the installation of Velixo, which is only going to take about 30 seconds to a minute. But we have added a new ribbon with it in Excel called Velixo. When you click on that ribbon, you'll see a drop down of all those functionalities that we'll go through one by one. We've created over 80 functionalities, but I do want to emphasize that we service financials, projects, and generic inquiries. So these 80 functions that I've been mentioning a couple of times now, we've created those functions embedded within Excel, so you'll be able to reference those. And utilizing generic inquiries, I'm hoping and assuming some of the individuals here are familiar with that, but that really exposes you to be able to report on anything outside of financials and projects. So it might be inventory reports, sales commission reports, AR, AP, anything that you can think of, you will be able to report on. Lastly, and most importantly, I do want to emphasize all the data you'll see today is refreshable at the click of a button and everything is live. Now, we won't spend too much time on this, but if you wanted to take a look at some of the reviews after the fact, please go ahead to the Acumatica marketplace. Very proud to say we are the #1 rated solution in the ecosystem right now. We are the #1 solution, ISV solution within Acumatica as a whole. So please take a look if you'd like after the call. We can skip on this slide, and this is going to be the second to last slide before we'll dive right into the demo itself. 2 important items to mention here. #1, we have an unlimited user model. So if you're going to be 1, 5, 100 employees on your team who need access to Velixo, you don't have to worry about paying more. It's, we want everyone who needs access to Velixo to have access to Velixo. Outside of that, and this is the most important piece, is that we mirror the exact same permission rights that are set up in Acumatica when a customer is trying to use Velixo. So if you set up the necessary permission rights for an individual on your team, let's say, who doesn't have access to any budget screens or budget related data, when they're trying to use Velixo, they still won't have that accessibility. It's an apples to apples comparison, and you all will see that once we go into the actual demo presentation in probably 30 seconds from now. Last slide before we dive right into the demo is just a sample of some of the organizations that we're working with right now. We weren't able to include all 1,400 or so, but this just gives you a snapshot. And I always like to hone in on Acumatica, as they themselves have seen the value in our solution. They actually utilize Velixo for their own reporting needs. With that being said, let's dive into the demo. And I know you'll all see the screen below here. This was actually from the Acumatica Summit about 1.5 years ago. I would call it the COVID Summit, because I know a large portion of the individuals got COVID, including myself, during the summit. But to get started, I'm going to go through the installation process, and this is the exact same thing that you will go through when you use Velixo for the first time. John, other members from the team will send you your activation link, and you'll be able to get started. You'll just connect this to your unique device, and whoever needs access, you can forward the same link off to them. If you're using Windows, completely compatible. If you're using Mac, completely compatible. What you'll see today, all the functions are available, just so everyone here is aware. There's one functionality, report distribution, not yet available on the Mac, but that's coming down the line shortly. So you'll see Velixo has already installed. We're just waiting for Excel to open up. Once it opens up, which it has, we will be able to get started on our first worksheet. We don't need the getting started because you all have me here today, but let's zoom in a little bit more. The first thing that you'll notice is that ribbon, like I previously mentioned, Velixo, that has been installed. When you click on that, you'll see that drop down where, #1, you'll see a few icons that we'll go through. So refreshing your data, connecting Acumatica to Excel, drilling down to a unique transaction, sending out reports directly from Excel, pushing your data back into Acumatica. You'll see a couple of scenarios that we'll touch on in the next little bit, some additional support, and then you'll see a few additional functions here. The first thing that we will do today is connect Acumatica to Excel. Let's just click on the connection manager. We'll add our connection, and then we're simply going to fill out the appropriate fields. And what's great about Velixo is you're not going to have to remember another username, another passcode. The ones that you use already to log into Acumatica are the exact same ones you log in here. And that allows us to mimic those permission rights. A few other items to mention here: connection name, just try to keep it as short as possible. As you're building the reports out, you'll see when I show you the next minute or so, you'll be using these connection names quite frequently. Remember me, so you don't have to fill this in every single time. And then Active Directory or SSO, you can fully authenticate with Velixo if you have a more restricted login. Let's go ahead and log in. Seems it's a little tired from the long weekend, but we should almost be there. All right, perfect. So you'll see here, cloud in green indicates we are officially connected into the ecosystem of Acumatica. In this scenario, I'm only connecting to one tenant or one instance. If you do have multiple tenants or instances, there's no problem. You'll just add a second, third, fourth by adding connections here. If you have multiple companies or multiple branches, you don't have to worry about that. That's usually within one given tenant. We have one customer, I think KFC, they have 45 tenants and they consolidate for all of them on one given spreadsheet. They don't have any problems with that whatsoever. All right, so let's get started. And I always like to start on when I'm talking about Velixo with a simple trial balance. This will give you a better idea of the foundation of Velixo. So we'll start with this and then we will transition into a couple of sample pack reports that are free. You all can use this and it's available on our website already. Getting started, we're going to look for our chart of accounts. I'm sure you've gone through the manual process already of putting them in one by one. You don't have to do that with Velixo. We take a look at that toolbar again. See below here, insert chart of accounts. Simply click on that. We'll see that connection demo that we previously connected to. Click on insert. Everything populates in real time. Now I'm going to double click on the cell just so you can see this is one of those 80 dynamic functions I've already mentioned. So as you're building your reports out, let's say you have another task and you want to come back to the report later on, you can definitely do that. And once you come back, you can just simply click on refresh all in the top left. And then anything that's been added, removed, or modified will automatically update since the last time you logged in. So everything is live here. And it's based on the parameters or filters that you put in place. Next, we're going to look for our account name. So I'll type equals account name. Once you do so, you'll see a drop down of the syntax. And if you recall, I said to put the connection name as short as possible because you're utilizing it frequently. So let's put that demo connection. We're going to take our account, but we want all of our accounts. And we have everything populated. Next, we're going to put a few filters here. Let's look for sub account and our financial period. And in our instance, we'll just put this period and we'll look for our actuals. Now, when we're looking for our account ending balance, I want to show you that there is not only one way of extracting this information by typing in the formula, but for those folks who are familiar with the insert function icon, and if you've used Excel, I'm sure you've used the insert function icon. Just click on that. And the first thing you'll notice in the category section is that when I scroll down, we've added 6 new categories. So generic inquiries, projects, general ledger, audit functions, list functions, and write back. So let's say I click on projects, you'll see the list of every single function we've created for the project module. I believe over 80, I think of the 80 functions, about 55 of those functions are designated specifically for the project module, but we can service every single module. Let's get back to the general ledger. And let's take our accounting balance. Once we do so, it's really just plugging and playing now. So let's put our connection in, take our ledger. And we're not looking for our branch. Let's look for the financial period. I do want to mention you can include unposted transactions you'll see here. But before I click on OK, just know where it says help on this function. I always like to highlight this because we have an abundant amount of resources when it comes to support on our web pages. We found that a lot of controllers, accountants were requesting content from us because they wanted to go off on their own and utilize Velixo because at the end of the day, we're just creating functions and adding functions. So you'll see here, we're only on the account ending balance function because we're working in this function now, but you'll see the syntax, same idea, the parameters. I'm going to scroll down a little bit, where you'll see examples for every single function we host. So it's a little bit off the beaten path of what I'm showcasing today, but it's just to give you an idea on how else you can utilize these functions. Let me just scroll below so you'll see any sort of limitations here. So you'll have all the content available. Everything's on our help desk. You'll see help.velixo.com, but you'll have Taliba, you'll have myself, you'll have the SVA team. They're certified with Velixo. You know, everyone here has that understanding already from the reporting standpoint. Last item I do want to highlight, and I know we're going to touch on this in about 5 or so minutes, but it's those 10 reports. So I'm clicking on example reports tutorials. You'll see various reports you can repurpose at your own discretion. So the P&L trial balance, I'll be touching on that. The construction report sample pack, I'll highlight that. But you know, AR aging, extremely important, but used in terms of all our customers actually repurposing these reports. But you'll see various reports here. All right, with that being said, let's get back into the report and let's let the good times roll. All right, so let's click on OK. And let's make this report look a bit better. Okay, so at this point, we have our actuals, we have our financial period. But let's say we wanted to toggle, we wanted to see, you know, a report as of November. Change the financial period, updates real time. But I'm sure you're going to want to compare your actuals in 1 year, maybe to your actuals in the previous year. You can definitely do that. Change the financial period again. You'll see everything update in real time. I'm sure there's going to be instances where you'll want to compare your actuals to your budget. You might have multiple budgets or multiple forecasts. It's just on, you know, how you've set up your accounts within Acumatica. But you can do this. You'll see everything update. You will see that there are values here. This is where I do highlight some of those additional functionalities at the ribbon up top, such as hiding 0 rows, hiding 0 columns as you build out your report. Lastly, make this feel like a true trial balance. All right. The last thing I'm going to highlight before we switch into that sample pack report is how to group your accounts together. I'm sure this is a question that a lot of individuals are thinking of right now. As you're building your accounts out, you might want to exclude accounts. You want to map your accounts accordingly. There are 3 different ways on doing so. The first one is going to be grouping a specific set of accounts. Second one is going to be grouping ranges. And the last one, in my opinion, is the most valuable, is going to be able to use the wildcard, which allows you to mix and match the accounts that you wanted to reference. If we take a look at the first example, let's say we wanted 10-100, 10-200, and then 10-300. All you will do is put a semicolon in between those values, copy one of the lines in the cells, click on paste, and you'll see it takes the addition of all 3 of those accounts. Next example, let's say we wanted 10-100 all the way to 10-750. You'll see it's going to take the addition or the sum of all of those accounts. The last one is the use of wildcards. Say we're looking for any account with a leading 1. We're going to put 4 question marks after that because we have 5 total digits. And then let's say we don't want 10-200. And there you go. So just showing you, an easy example of how you can mix and match your accounts together. Depending on how you've set up your accounts, might be a little bit more complex, but you'll see here, this is really the core fundamentals on a simple trial balance. With that being said, let's dive into one of the sample pack reports that we will be spending the majority of the time today. And this is going to really highlight the evolution of Velixo and the reporting capabilities that you will have access to. Just going to be a moment while we log in. Perfect. So I'm going to zoom in just a little bit more. And you'll see here the sample pack, and I won't say it again, but this sample pack is available on our website, so you already have access to it. But you'll see various reports in the sheets below. So trailing P&L, an income consolidated report, cash flow statement, trial balance, and like these pie charts and these tables, those are just using Excel as a whole to create these. So we're not reinventing the wheel at the end of the day. We're just adding in functionality so you can report and then use those core fundamentals already in Excel. This first report you'll see here at P&L, we have one branch, we have consolidated, but let's say you wanted to toggle to Service West. You'll see the report for that given branch populate in real time. So this can be branch, this can be company. You have that flexibility in choosing how you want these reports to look. You can even combine accounts. You'll see here, we want Service East and Service West. It's Excel at the end of the day. And I always like to mention, you can include those unposted transactions. But let's dive into one of the most highly utilized functions that we offer, and it's called Drilldown. You may have seen this already within Acumatica, but I think you'll notice that it is far more powerful with Velixo. Put simply, the Drilldown functionality allows you to click on any cell within any one of your spreadsheets and go to the source transaction directly within Acumatica. In our instance, we're going to take a look at the total operating expenses, and let's drill down to a unique transaction. Let's click on drill down. A new sheet will open up momentarily. It's going to highlight all the transactions, what account they're coming from, the financial period, the branches, the description. So you'll have all this detailed on a separate sheet. But I do want to highlight how we are connected into the Acumatica ecosystem. So let's take this example right here. We're going to look for this. Where is this located? Just click on the view transaction. And you'll see at that point, there's going to be a hyperlink that transitions us directly into the account details section within Acumatica. Just so you know, I am logged in the scenario. So if you're not logged in, it will prompt you to log in. But you'll see here, one at the Hilton, 20173. You can take this a step further. Just click on the reference number. And by clicking on the reference number, you'll be able to identify or source that original invoice. We're almost there. There we go. You'll see the full invoice right here. Going back, you do as well have the ability to drill back. So if we're still on A15, you can click on here and it's going to show you exactly what cell this came from. So I showed one example, total operating expenses. Let's say you wanted to drill down on just one given line item as opposed to, the total operating expenses. If you click drill down, in this instance, I believe you'll see maybe one or two lines because there's only one or two transactions in this scenario here. We don't have to save that. Okay, so with the next tool or functionality I want to highlight is going to be the report distribution. We're going to talk about report distribution, then we're going to dive into generic inquiries, and then following that, we will touch on the write back tools. So if we take a look at the distribution list right here, first question you're probably asking is, where do I find this? So it's always going to be looking at all these tabs right here, where all you'll have to do is click on new list, and this will be the template that will populate. This template, I filled it out for all intents and purposes for today. So I'm going to walk through a real life scenario where we're really sending out these reports. First column you'll see is the format and how you want to send these reports out. So do you want to send them out in Excel? Do you want to do PDF? You also have that flexibility of creating these reports to be either static or dynamic. So if you want these reports to be sent out to someone else who themselves will have access to Acumatica and the necessary permission rights, they'll be able to drill down on those reports if you send it to them. And you don't have to worry, again, I just want to emphasize with the permission rights, you don't have to worry about the permission rights because it is based on what each user has already been set up within Acumatica. Then you look at the file name, self-explanatory. Tabs are just based on the below sheets that you'll see here. Folder path, so if you're saving reports, let's say OneDrive, SharePoint, or another online medium, you'll just indicate where the folder path is, and then it's automatically going to distribute to that location. Intended recipients. It's self-explanatory once again, but let's scroll to the right-hand side. My two favorite columns are G and J. So if we take a look at G, you can actually send these reports in the body of an email as opposed to an attachment, but you can pick and choose line items from a report that you want to send out. So let's say you don't want to send out the reports in an entirety. Let's say you have a CIO who only wants to see the COGS. You can send them a report that is only highlighting that functionality. And then you'll see here, being able to filter by a given branch for that intended recipient. You can filter by company. You can even create your own customized filter when you're sending out these reports. Once we're at the point where we are ready to send these reports out, All you'll do is click on distribute all, and then the reports will be sent out in real time. I am only sending out 7 reports right now, so it should take about 30 to 45 seconds at the most, but depending on how large your files are, might take a couple of minutes or so. But we've been told by a lot of customers, this is an absolute machine for them when sending out reports. A question that does come up quite often, so in case your team, any of the individuals thinking of this question, I'll just answer it. But in terms of being able to automate your report sends, you can 100% do that. You just have to set that up in your Windows Task Manager. The steps are already available on our website, so you can utilize our website to figure out ways on how to do that. In the future, we are looking to have something within the spreadsheet that you see here that you'll be able to pick and choose when you want to send these reports. So I believe the reports have been sent. So let's go ahead into our drafts. And it's in our drafts. You'll see to the left, I chose to send it to our drafts, but you can send these out right away. If we take a look at the first example, you'll see CFO only wants to see the net sales, and as a line item, you can easily do that. So you can slice and dice these reports quite easily. Second example here, another one that's in the body of an email. It's a full income consolidated report. I will highlight 2 other reports. We'll take the first example. I believe this one is going to be a given branch. Yeah, so you'll see here, Service West, we remove the budget in this scenario. And then the last one is a full consolidated report. And I'm just going to zoom in here, zoom out a little bit, but you'll see on the second page, pie charts table. So however, we extract what's ever on the spreadsheet. So you don't even have to have any Velixo associated formulas when you're sending this out. You can change this logo to your company's logo. You have full flexibility. We have a lot of customers who use Velixo for another way as well, where if you have board meetings or PowerPoint presentations to the board or external members, you can actually make these reports live within that PowerPoint slide so that at the click of a button, you can click refresh all and all the data updates on that PowerPoint slide. So you don't have to keep doing those reports over and over again. So this was just one example of how reports would be distributed. With that being said, I will dive into the generic inquiry functionality. And I can't explain or emphasize enough how important this is because this exposes you to operational reporting, being able to report on any given item within your business. So I'm going to go back into our demo environment and we're going to take an example of a generic inquiry. Click on payables, take bills and adjustments. With Acumatica, you do obtain about 400 or so pre-built generic inquiries. This would be one of them. We're not going to touch anything right here. I know you can toggle between the fields, the columns, excuse me. All we're going to do is click on edit right up top. Let's try that again. There we go. And once it loads, we'll just copy that inquiry title. So right here, we'll just copy this. We're going to get out of Acumatica and we're going to go right back into Excel. Type equals GI. This is for generic inquiry. You'll see various ways on how you can utilize. You can do GIs with lookups. I'm sure everyone here has utilized VLOOKUPs before, so you'll have that flexibility again. But all we're going to do, put the connection, demo, put the inquiry title, fields and adjustments, and you'll see in a matter of seconds, the inquiry will load from Acumatica. Always when I say that, it takes a little bit longer. Just click on this again. There we go. So this is your entire bills and adjustments that has loaded from Acumatica. This is a live view. So, at this point, I'm not going to go too deep right now, but let's say we were just wanted vendor, status, and then currency. You can actually create a filter and then put that filter into the inquiry so you don't have to constantly look for the exact same data that you're looking for every single month and filter through it. Let's say for vendor, in our instance, we wanted just the transit. And then for status, we only want to see items that are open. All I'm going to do now is reference the above variables in a filter, and then we'll put that into the inquiry. I'll type equals GI, and this is where filter will populate. And then just like before, put that connection name again, put the inquiry again, and then all we're going to do is take the above that you above items you see. So vendor B1, status B2. That's it. The hard part's done. We've created the filter. Oh, at this point, we can just copy this filter. And then we're going to put that into the original inquiry. When I open up the cell, you'll see here, it shows us exactly the syntax. So it's going to say connection, name, filter. So you'll have, the rubric behind on how to actually build this out, but we have those support documentations as well. So we're going to put that filter in, and you'll see now it's going to show me only the vendors with transit, only the status of the open and the currency. We didn't modify that, but let's say we want to toggle between open and closed. As an example, you'll have that flexibility. You can have multiple GIs within one spreadsheet. You can have functions, financial functions, project module functions, in addition to GIs within one spreadsheet. The whole idea here is we want to minimize the amount of work you have to do to get the reports that you're looking for. So this here was an example of a generic inquiry and how to extract one. Next, we will look at the write back functionality. So again, we're going to look at the toolbar. You'll see below here, perform write back and new sheet. Now, this actually came from a customer about a year and a half ago now, where they said it's fantastic that you can extract your data, but we want to be able to update our data from Excel directly into Acumatica. So we slowly noodled with the idea on the ways on how to do that. And it's evolved, as you'll see. There's 4 different scenarios here, but you're essentially able to push back data into any screen within Acumatica. If we take a look at the first example, journal transaction, this was the first one that we launched with Acumatica to automate those journal entries. You'll see here the template that populates. It's fairly standardized. You don't have to put all the columns. I know Acumatica only has about 7 or 8 that you need to fill out, but this will allow you to automate, typing this in every single time within Acumatica. And then once you're ready to push this back in, all you'll do is click on perform write back. This is one example here. I do want to highlight an example that we've already created. So you'll see here the write back, the budget write back scenario, where this screen, if you've used the budget screen within Acumatica, you'll notice that it's very similar to the one that you've seen already. And we did it on purpose. In our instance, we have a revenue and expense account. We have 2 custom columns that we've created. Let's assume in our instance, the COGS increased by 25%. It's been, a pretty expensive year with the shipping. You're going to see that it's going to be reflected in every single period. You can use standard Excel functions, if let's say you're more period sensitive, where you have, more sales in period 3 and period 4. It's not even using any Acumatica or Velixo related functions. That's just standard Excel functionalities. You can use what if scenarios here, but because we're working with an Excel, we can piggyback on some of those innate functionalities that Microsoft has evolved with from a collaborative standpoint. So let's say you have multiple members who are working on a budget. You can create a comment for another individual on your team, and you want them to provide input. So let's say, I can say add Gloria or add Taliba. These numbers feel off. Please investigate. And then once we click send, they will receive that to their Outlook or whatever device that they're using when they connected to Microsoft. But the best piece here is that you'll be able to have that trail. So if you click on review, where it says show comments on the right-hand side, you'll see who is working on what given moment. So you'll have that trail. And then once you're ready to push this data back into Acumatica, all you'll do is click on perform write back, and then your budget will be pushed directly back into Acumatica. One item I do want to mention, you'll see here the release icon. I've chosen to not release it. Most customers that we work with prefer to release it once they're in Acumatica, because it gives you that second line of defense, but you do have that flexibility to release it right away. And then all you'll have to do once you're in Acumatica and you're ready to release the budget, type budget release in the universal search. You'll see it populate, and then if you're actually going to release, if you actually click the write back, it's going to push here, and then you'll be able to release it right away. The next scenario that you'll see here, we'll touch on project forecast in a moment when we highlight the project forecast functionality, is generic write back. This is the newest and greatest that we've launched. This has been around for, I'd say, maybe 7-8 months at this point, but this allows you to push back your data into any single import scenario that has already been created within Acumatica. You'll see in our instance here, we have our demo environment, and then it's going to populate. It might take a little moment or so, but you'll see every single import scenario that we've created, such as inventory, stock items, non-stock items, customers. It could be exchange rates. It can be prices. Anything that you'll see that has been created in the demo environment will automatically populate here, where once you click on create generic write back worksheet, it's going to extract the columns that you've created already within Acumatica, and then it's going to predefine those within this worksheet. So all you'll have to do is fill up those columns, and then when you're ready to push back, in the same vein, all you'll do is click on perform write back. With that being said, I do want to highlight the project module briefly before we talk about some of the support documentations that you have available. Let's click on this right here. And there we go. We just get a second for this to load. And I wish I had a good joke while this was loading.
Duff, you actually have a question here on the connection side.
Yeah.
As you're bringing it up, is the single sign-on aspect of Acumatica supported through Velixo as well?
100%. So if you recall, when I logged in originally, there was an icon. Let me go here. Let's go back to the other. Let's go to the connection manager here. So if you click on add connection, if you put your details in here and single sign-on is enabled, there's going to be a security icon right here so that you can actually connect through single sign-on. But 100%, it's we work with single sign-on. Yes.
Awesome. Thank you.
Sure. All right. So we'll see here. This is the sample pack report. So this is another one. I'll touch on the project module just momentarily, but I just want to emphasize for those of you who are using Construction Edition or project module, we work with you completely like we do on the financials or the GI side. So you'll see here, this sample pack is also available on our website. So you can utilize this as a reference point as you're building your reports out. So you'll see all the ongoing projects for this manager. A dashboard on the left-hand side. This is just being extracted by the sheet that you see below here. We take a look at the first example. This is just this is a project portfolio report where we have various project managers. You can toggle between those project managers where you'll see their ongoing projects, their KPIs, their actuals versus their budget. But I always like to highlight the cell up top. So if we take a look at the formula, you'll see, similarly how we created equals account ending amount, where I highlighted the financial module. You'll see here we created the same functionality for the project module. So we created projects, project functions, tasks, cost codes, all that has already been defined within our system. You'll see here a project report. So if we wanted to toggle between the reports themselves, you'll be able to switch between those projects. You'll be able to see all the cost codes and the budgets for that given project. And in the same vein, you'll be able to change that period to report of. So that's going to be there. Those of you who are familiar with WIP reports, you'll see there are 100% WIP reports here. This is used extremely heavily by a lot of the customers that we work with. So you'll be able to reference this, and you'll see up top just using, two functions. So it's using Velixo functions and Excel's core standard functionalities. You'll see here we have a project P&L. And then the project forecast. So you actually have the ability to push your projects back directly into Acumatica from Velixo. Same idea, you'll click on perform write back, and then it would automatically push back. The last item I do want to highlight most important, I know I only referenced some of the support documentation on our website that's available. You'll see here, we have a Velixo blog. You'll see the support and feedback, but I'm going to turn all of your attention to YouTube. And I don't usually do this, but you'll see here, we have various videos. I think we have 92 or 93 videos, and it's just showing how you can use Velixo for specific functionalities. We take customer requests to heart. So usually when we see that there are various customers asking us for, specifics of what they're looking for, so reconciliations, allocations, date-based reporting, we'll actually create videos, so you'll be able to reference these. We just launched our new website about a week ago. So all these videos will actually be transitioned to our website. So you'll see these views will probably increase sooner rather than later, because just when I'm doing these webinars or demo presentations, I'm highlighting this, but all this is available to your team. And then in addition to that, we also have, let me just go back to our support page. You'll see here, there's getting started videos. So getting started, creating your first report. Oh, we do have a newsletter. I do like to mention that. We send this out quarterly. So every quarter, we actually come out with new functionalities associated to Velixo. So if you want to stay top of mind with that, you'll be aware. So like, for instance, when we came out with the write back functionality, and then we created the generic write back functionality, we launched those in those newsletters. So we don't inundate our customers by any means. But outside of that, besides the getting started videos, you'll see how-to guides, and then those example reports and tutorials, which are extremely useful. With that being said, I'm happy to answer some questions. If there are questions, I hope this is insightful for the individuals who joined today. And I'll leave the floor to you, John.
Awesome. Actually, Duffy, before I take over here to wrap us up, just one question here that I see. Can
Sure.
Velixo handle the multi-currency aspect?
100%. We have examples that we've done many times with multi-currency, so no issues there whatsoever.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. Leo, I'm not sure if you're seeing any additional questions here.
I'm not. We only had, oh, actually, the moment that I said I'm not, we had someone post a question. So, hi, John, sorry if I missed it. If we can send a spreadsheet with Velixo links to someone that doesn't use Velixo, will a bunch of broken links pop up?
If you're sending a link to them, you can password protect it, but you'd have to send them a static image at that point, and you can definitely do that with Velixo. So it would just be a static document. But if you're saving your reports as SharePoint, or like I mentioned, that OneDrive, for instance, if they have access to SharePoint or OneDrive, they'll just see it as a static image as long as they have the access rights to the SharePoint or the OneDrive.
All right, and actually, I see one here. My apologies. It looks like they kicked me off of Zoom here. They don't want me to share my screen, only Duffy today. All right, let's see if I can get this back up. All right. So I did see a question come through just on the licensing side, so I did want to address that here. So of course, you'll have our contact information posted, but just to get in contact with SVA, if you have any additional questions around Velixo or are curious on more of the functionality, would like to explore having this as a part of your Acumatica environment, I do have our contact information here positioned for Tanya Kreitzer at SVAconsulting.com. And alternatively, we have a few other points of contact through the technical support of SVA Consulting and through our website. And of course, feel free to reach out to any of us as well. We have myself on, Taliba, and Duffy. But for primary Velixo licensing questions, we'll have you direct those at KreitzerT@SVAconsulting.com. All right. And then also too, coming up, we have our webinar in June. So be on the lookout for that. In addition, you'll receive the recording link, again, directing you to our Acumatica webinars YouTube channel, where we have a number of these out there, along with a survey. We're always looking for more feedback on these webinars. And then as always, just a quick link here to Acumatica Community Access, where you'll see a forum for Acumatica, all these questions posted, around either Acumatica functionality or extending out into the Velixo side as well. And let me just do one more check here, see if there's any additional questions rolling in. Don't think that I see any. All right, I think we're all set. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We hope you have a great rest of your week.
Take care. Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone.